And am I muted? No, I am not.
Oh, and it is like, hi, buddy.
Hi, everybody. How you doing? Sorry, my voice is going to weird places because A, I'm drinking a coffee, and sometimes it does that. And I have to swallow a little bit, and you know what? It goes away. And all of a sudden, I'm back to normal, Jen. Yeah, I was kind of in and out of like scrolling through the Twitter, trying to see things that are pretty much new to talk about. And like I told Functional, the only thing I've seen lately that I've been kind of following outside of what is basic news, like, you know, the Corona stuff, like, is pretty much all over the place. Like, I can only watch so many of those before it's just like, yeah, I'm not going to learn anything new here. And you know, I'm trying to watch the stuff that's going on with Trudeau because, like, between the Corona stuff that he's talking shit about because he's a retard, and like the stuff I've been following with the Rebel News, like, I don't take them all that seriously, but when it comes to some of the legal stuff that's been coming out with them, I have been, because all it takes is one person for them to tweak a law that would actually be bad for everyone, regardless of who the group is. Like, don't get me wrong, you know, they're very much leading towards the side that they're leaning on. Anything that they've released, I'm pretty sure is just like, Trudeau bad, which, you know, fair enough. You know, I mean, I feel that way too sometimes. But it's the legal stuff that they're pulling with his book and the stuff behind the scenes that makes it really unnerving, because they spent like $130,000 on a book, guy. Like, they had him in a back, like, they've got five cops covering his case for this. And like, you look at it and it's just like, okay, well, I don't doubt the book is, like I said, Trudeau bad.
Well, he is.
You know, he is. They didn't like it because I guess because it was the Rebel. They were more going after the blackface leaning part of it, you know, that end of it. And I'm kind of like, I don't really care which way they were leaning towards in their book. They're more than welcome to do that. We still live in a democracy here, folks.
You'd like to think so. Not with the news that I have today.
I'm not surprised.
So we've got a couple big stories. They're all sort of interconnected. Starting off with this one, the independent panel report calls for more more Canadian streaming content and an ad-free CBC. So the Heritage Minister said that the legislation will be coming within the year, and this is not good. For anyone in Canada, basically what's going on is we've adopted the Chinese Communist government style of corporate broadcast, not corporate, but government broadcasting. So yes, the CBC is 100% funded by tax dollars.
Yep.
Therefore, it should be ad-free. We should not be advertised to by the CBC because we're already paying for it. It's like paying for a Netflix subscription and then getting a fuck ton of ads going, well, I'm already paying for a streaming service. Why are you advertising to me? I'm paying for this because I don't want to be advertised. I don't want cable. And
the thing is it would be one thing if it was them advertising for their own content, you know, because you kind of still have to do that.
They do, like, yeah. They'll give you bumpers for other shows. Yeah.
You know, for that kind of stuff, I don't have a problem with it. But yeah, like, if you're getting paid by McDonald's to stream ads, then, like, yeah, I'm not paying for McDonald's. You know, I'm usually paying for something educational or.
Yeah, at that point, you're literally subsidizing McDonald's ads.
Yeah, I'm like, no.
You're subsidizing private businesses' ads on a public broadcaster, which is fucking disgusting. With this. With all this goings on right now, we obviously had the Trudeau government give not just the CBC but a lot of Canadian broadcasters a huge subsidy, And we already see the effects, because there's never any criticism of the Liberal government. There's never any
and they all have
editorials
taken the
about
money, guys. Like that's the thing. Like, I hate bringing up the Rebel, because honestly, they're about money too. Like, I mean,
Sure, they're
more
private
about
business.
but I mean, at least they're more about your money than they are about the government's money, because I think that they are well aware of how screwed the system is right now. To be honest, they have no stretch in hell of getting anywhere at this point.
And they're not going to see a dollar of that
No.
that government money that's going to broadcasters, because they are a conservative.
Yeah.
They make no qualms about it. They are
Yeah.
a conservative news outlet.
They're
very upfront about it, and you have to
war.
you have to weed through it like you do everything else.
Yes.
And pick and choose, take things with a grain of salt, like with any sort of news outlet in today's age.
And absolutely, I do.
Yeah, of course. But just because they are conservative, they are not going to see a penny of this money, because they're not willing to play ball with the Trudeau government. And it's fucking disgusting, because again, this panel, they were charged with coming up with how to deal with the internet age, so to speak. Excuse me one sec.
Bless you.
And this was in the age of dial-up. Now we're in the age of broadband. So a lot of these things that the panel has sort of brought to the table is already outdated. This panel wants to work towards the goal of universal broadband access for all Canadians. Something I don't particularly have something against, because in the modern age, you can't really get a decent job. You can't communicate with your political representatives or any of this type of stuff without the internet. And that's fine. I don't mind a little bit of, we live in a more socialized country with certain things. I don't mind if the government says, yeah, we're going to help some of the bottom, and we're going to go investigate corporations like Rogers and Bell and fight against them basically having price fixing and price gouging of consumers for telecommunications, for your cell phone, for the internet. It's something that's happening in the United States too, that I know Trump and his cabinet have addressed, but haven't really taken any strides, because there's more important things, obviously. But it's a recognized issue already.
Another thing I could see them doing, because like you know how you get funding, you can apply for funding as a Canadian if you're wanting to promote like Canadian productions, like if you wanted to make a movie in Canada.
That's the next issue, is that this panel, and by extension the Liberal government, is going to start requiring media curators such as Netflix to invest in Canadian programming. We have what's called CanCon, Canadian Content Rules, here in Canada, where radio, television, etc., they need to broadcast a certain amount, mandated by federal law, Canadian produced content, which I think is bullshit.
See,
it doesn't matter if it's good or it's bad. If it can float, if it can sink or swim on its own merits, they need to invest in it. And I'm not above, and I'm actually for promoting stuff, but not at the basically at the barrel of a gun, saying you have to produce Canadian content or you can't do business in Canada. That is fucking retarded.
Yeah,
how many fucking Chinese industries that now own chunks and swaths of Canada are being regulated the same way? None. It's picking and choosing. It's pay to play, and it's so transparent, and people just aren't concerned about this. Or not enough people. I mean, obviously Maxime is very up in arms and very vocal about this stuff on social media, but
well, for me, the reason this is setting up red flags for me is because this feels like I'm sorry, this feels like Germany 1940 all over again. Because here's the thing,
Well,
you
no, this
know
is
that
modern communist China.
yes, well, you know what? The two go
I know
hand
what
in
you mean,
hand.
though.
They
Yeah.
go hand in hand. But the thing is if he does this, you know that he's going to do the same thing here that he's done with our media, which means that the people that he's going to give money to promote our stuff, even if it is like through streaming and Netflix and those kind of platforms, they're always going to be leaning in his direction. They're always going to be
Well,
like that little under,
of course.
you know.
But with this thing, they're
Mhm,
basically saying for Netflix,
mhm.
for Disney Plus, for Amazon Prime to operate in Canada, you now have to allocate 25% of your platform to Canadian
Yeah,
produced
no,
content, and
that's
that's
stupid.
bullshit.
That is bullshit.
I mean, a lot of content out there is already being filmed and shot in Canada because it's cheaper to do so up here. And in large chunks of Canada, things like Toronto, we can make it look like any major city in the world. It's not that hard. We have a very I hate to use the word generic, but we have a very sort of generic look that we can alter a few things, add a little bit of CGI, and boom, Toronto becomes New York, or boom, Toronto becomes Chicago, or boom, Chinatown becomes, downtown Hong Kong. It's there are certain aspects of production that are already Canadian, but it's the demanding and saying you cannot play
Yeah.
ball unless you reach these goals every year. It's disgusting.
Well, yeah, and it's bad. It's poor business tactic too, because honestly, the other side was, honestly, as somebody who's been on the other side in those kind of dealings, most businesses tell you to fuck off. They don't need Canadian content to run. They can leave us behind in the dust, and no one would blink an eye. And that's not a good way to do business. Now it's one thing to purchase, maybe be like, hey, if we put some money here, can we maybe have some that are Canadian geared and pay for it? Sure, I have no problem with that.
There are a couple good suggestions from this panel, like combining the Canadian Media Fund and Telefilm Canada into a single entity. These are already publicly funded. Trimming the fat. We don't need 10 programs to fund Canadian content. So let's aggregate everything into one single entity that will deal with all this stuff, whether it be film, TV, or streaming services. And the other one is strengthening and reimagining the role of the CRTC, the Canadian. Oh fuck! I forget what CRTC stands for. It's basically our version of the. What's the American one? Fuck! I'm drawing a blank. My brain is not.
I don't know. I'm thinking
working so well.
It's not CCTV for them, but I thought it was CCTV for us, or at least England.
FCV? No, FCC. Thank you. It's the Canadian version of the FCC. And they want to make all media providers, from conventional broadcasters to online curators, subject to its jurisdiction. Now, at its surface, you're kind of like, well, yeah, that's kind of what I was already talking about of saying, it has to be 25. But it also will deal with the fact that online curators, such as Facebook, Twitter, Netflix, Google, all these big tech giants, have to abide by laws already on the books. And in part of this, something we covered a couple shows ago was that if you are using a person's personal data and selling that data, you cannot do, under these sort of regulations, you would not be allowed to do that. Your EULA, your end user license agreement, cannot circumvent Canadian law. Again, a big thing that's been going on in the States as well is that these, end user license agreements are subverting American law just like, whether or not a company like Twitter is a curator or a platform. And they're hiding behind 230 saying, hey, we're a platform. Anybody can do this, just like YouTube. But in actions, they are acting like a curator saying, well, no, you can't put that up on our content because we don't agree with it. So there's that. They want, and of course, with the demand that the streaming services like Netflix and Amazon adhere to Canadian content laws, that means they're going to try to institute another tax on these services, and they call it not a Netflix tax, but, and you know what? Anything you say before but invalidates everything as soon as you say the word but, because it's just you're speaking out of both sides of your mouth. And it's using the talking points of the day to sort of energize people to say, hey, we're gonna help protect you and we're gonna do all these things, but at the same time we're gonna do it so underhandedly because that's the MO of the Liberal government these days. They're going to use these talking points that are across the aisle. Like, they're not left, they're not right. They're just, hey, this is what's happening in technology today. We need to update our laws and our society's outlook on these things without bias, without political leanings, but at the same time, they're definitely underhanded, under their breath, going, yeah, but we're gonna make sure that you're talking well about us, and we're not gonna have you platform the other people. It's disgusting. No, I don't want this article because it's basically it's from iPolitics. It's basically more of the same. I had the independent the Minister of Canadian Heritage, Stephen Guilbeault, talking about how these new sweeping changes are going to be coming based on that panel's recommendations. Sweeping new powers and responsibility be given to the Canadian Radio, Television and Telecommunications Communication, the CRTC, including oversight of foreign streaming services like Netflix, Amazon, and Apple. Again, saying, hey, we're going to make sure that they adhere to Canadian law, but at the same time, we're also going to demand that they act in accordance with how we want them to act. And say, well, in order for Netflix to operate in Canada, you're still going to have to support 25% Canadian content, which, fuck no. They have content from around the world. It's not our business to tell them what they have to put on our streaming services.
Yeah.
One thing that they are sort of beneficially doing is that they currently circumvent our what's called the goods and services tax, the harmonized sales tax, which is an entirely different beast unto its own. It was supposed to be a temporary tax in a time of recession to help supplement the fact that, yeah, the Liberals have been ruining our government with unfettered immigration, with not dealing with illegals, with lack border security that is leeching off the public coffers of things like healthcare and social services. And because, again, we were in a recession, because of the Liberal government's overregulation in killing the Eastern Canada fisheries, in killing Alberta in prairies, oil businesses and agriculture. But we have no problem paying, and I'll bring up the article. We have no problem in subsidizing MasterCard's new $510 million Vancouver cybersecurity R&D center. Let that sink in. One of the most powerful financially American global corporations in MasterCard, we're now subsidizing their cybersecurity R&D center. How fucked up is that, people? Because you know what? If they are failing on their cybersecurity, that's on them. That's not on us, the taxpayer. In fact, if they are not able to secure private information, then they should be sued into the ground. They should not be. They should be put on a complete kibosh. Everybody who owes them any sort of money from their credit cards or other services that they offer should not be obligated to pay them until they can secure their own business. Because again, it's not our responsibility for businesses to act ethically and to act in the interest of their consumer base.
When people start fleeing the stream because the level of stupid, they're fleeing just to save their brain cells, you know? They're just like, what?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're
fine. You're fine. I just like...
No, I'm sorry to people who have to put up with this shit, because this is what's going on. That, again, the Canadian broadcasters and news outlets who aren't a part of the big payout by the Liberal government aren't talking about, because they just got a huge paycheck from taxpayers' money to not talk about this stuff. And yet it's happening. It's really happening. It's bad enough that there are arguments to be made to help subsidize certain industries like agriculture. I don't personally agree with most of them. There can be arguments made for it, but to outright now subsidize MasterCard, they are a financial juggernaut. Why are we subsidizing them so that they can make sure that they are operating to secure our personal credit information and our personal information? This is fucked up. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if and I'm not advocating for it, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do have a surge in violent people in our society acting out against this stuff, because it really is egregious. You are, and I'll start agreeing with the hardcore libertarians and saying, yes, at this point you're stealing our money.
Yes. Because
you're not using it for what the social contract of taxation is for. Taxation is for social net, which includes things like welfare, disability, healthcare, and the like, but also for infrastructure and just keeping us above board. This is now outright, we're paying corporations to do their jobs. This is fucking disgusting. It's getting me, as you can tell, I'm getting really worked up over this, guys, because I
honestly don't blame you. It's like little things out here, like so my bank closed down half its locations. And this is after the big boom. So like, we had a boom where they were like, oh, well, we're going to create jobs. We know you guys need jobs. So like for a little while, like they were just hiring extra people. And then like 3 years later, half the stores are gone. So looking for one of my banks now takes me at least an hour to an hour and a half's worth of travel via train at any given time, because there's nowhere in my city where I can go to go visit one. And it's not just my bank. It's all of them. Like, they're just like, oh, well, we don't really need to have so many banks because we run online. And you're like, well, listen, most of what I can do, yes, I can do it online. I understand that maybe you can cut down on staff, but to kill all of your store locations across the city?
Yeah. I have to address a couple things in chat. First, Trucker Matt, Moose, bitch, get out the way. Get out the way, bitch. Moose, bitch. That's fucking hilarious. Yeah, Ken, I understand that's why the minimum Canadian content thing is, but we live now in a global world where that kind of stuff doesn't matter. We're not beholden to, a handful of television broadcasters. And a lot of that had to do with the news.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that had to do with promoting Canadian lifestyle and entertainment. But now with global broadcasters such as, Netflix and Amazon, we shouldn't be using those platforms to push this stuff. We should be thinking more of an open market. Let's do our best as a Canadian country, as Canada the country, to make good content that people want to watch. And like I said, there's lots of shows that are being filmed up here that use Canadian resources to produce their content, and they're resting, they're succeeding on their own laurels, on their own the product that they're putting out, and it's great. There's a lot of film out there that people don't realize is filmed in Canada, but is making tons of money. So that's good. And Trucker Matt, there is a certain point at which you overstep your bounds, and at taxation, especially with a misuse of that taxation, it literally just becomes theft. Like when you pay out to news broadcasters that will play ball with the Liberal government, that's a clear violation of, like, your bias. You're literally paying news broadcasters to treat you favorably, and that's where you step over the line and say, no, that's theft, dude. What's the streaming service in Israel? I don't know.
I would imagine it's probably American. Sorry, just saying.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Ken. I agree. I'm not saying I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater here. I'm just saying there are certain checks and balances that need to be removed from politics, and say, well, this is an unethical use of our policy, our tax dollars to fund things that are then going to be used in a biased manner.
Anything to do with funds and the government and media of any kind always makes me a little bit nervous, because then you're just like, well, what are you using it for? And it's like, oh, well, we're going to promote Canadian people. But you know, when they say they're going to promote Canadian people, they're going to promote certain Canadian people.
Exactly. And that's why I don't have a problem with a publicly funded national broadcaster like the CBC. However, the CBC then has to act as unbiased as possible. And in thing like, okay, sure, they do a lot of children's and educational programming that is removed from politics. Great. That is a perfect example of what the broadcasters should be doing. But then we take a look at the news. Mm-hmm. The news is not unbiased. The news is just as biased as any other private concern out there that is putting out news content. There are very few broadcasters that I would say are unbiased. Steve Paikin, I think he's a Canadian fucking hero as far as the news goes, because he is his show was at the center of the whole Jordan Peterson, Lindsay Shepherd scandal that went on at the university, because he had, Jordan Peterson and the social justice crazies and the transgender crazies all on one panel, because he wants people to talk about it. He's just acting as the mediator. Yeah. And saying, okay, I'm giving you guys this platform to talk about the issues at hand. And he's not going to favor one side or the other. And he's not going to push an agenda. But since these big extra bonuses, let's call them, that the Liberals have been paying out to outlets like CTV, CBC, City TV, all these other news outlets, it's clear. Turn on CBC. It is clear that there's now a heavy bias, not only from what they talk about, but the omission of what they don't talk about.
Like the stuff that they've been trying to pull with the coronavirus as an example. Like even on
TVO is ran and operated through the same funds that the CBC is. TV, like, yes, the children's and educational channel, TV Ontario, those are ran on the provincial level, which is good because what I need to learn as an Ontarian is not going to be exactly the same as what you would need to learn as an Albertan, right, Jen? You know, as somebody who lives in the shithole that is Toronto, there's going to be different things that I need to learn than if I'm living in the prairies of Saskatchewan. They're going to need to learn a little bit more about let's just say, for lack of anything, anything coming to my brain right now, because I'm kind of in one of those headspaces where my brain is really foggy today. Blame the drugs. Legal drugs, guys. Legal drugs. Medication, I should say.
I can't say anything from that experience because unfortunately I'm still a city brat. I don't really have that background.
But I'm saying a more rural setting.
Yeah,
somebody from a more rural setting is going to have to learn a little bit more differently about different things. Not in general, but just, little things here and there. You want to tailor your programming to the region.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have different ways of going about it because, like, if
something
you're
like Pokeroo, that's going to teach you how to just be a decent human being. That's kind of universal, Polka Dot Door, Sesame Street, these kinds of things. I'm not saying Sesame Street in today's age. I'm saying the spirit of Sesame Street.
I hate to break it to you, but the reality of it is, if you're a small town child, you're probably working on a farm. So, like, people talking about morning cartoons is probably laughable.
Well, you still need entertainment as well, but those types of shows, they're just going to teach you, that stealing is wrong and that you should treat people well, and these kinds of things. But yeah, there is a more specialized thing that, yes, even in the province itself, there's different regions. You're going to need to learn different things. So with those kinds of broadcasters, they have their place. They're just being used now as political platforms as opposed to neutral platforms. And you can see it eating away because people have been calling for the cancellation of people like Steve Paikin for even having Jordan Peterson on his show. How dare you? Well, did you even watch it? No. Well, then why are you even opening your mouth, you stupid fucking git? Anyway. That was the pretty much the extent of my rage today. There wasn't much more past that, other than finally the World Health Organization finally decided to call coronavirus a oh my Green Thunder. Did
you just read his joke?
Yeah, and it kind of gave me the throats, and I kind of
Are you just blowing up? Are you blowing up?
I love me some good racist jokes. Well, they're not really racist. You can't call it racist. It's a cultural thing because Allahu Akbar. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, even when you quote that, you're just repeating what they say. Honestly, I'm not making that up. I didn't make it up. Now, if I said Durka Durka, on the other hand, we both know that was made up.
Yeah. But let's get to some funny stuff. Let's get to some funny, like, what the fuck stuff. She can't say no. The Ugandan men demanding to be breastfed. A study is looking into the coercive practice in Uganda amid calls for the government to address the issue. So there's a belief in some communities and parts of Africa that breast milk is energizing and has curative powers, say researchers. Jane's husband likes breast milk. He says he likes the taste of it and that it helps him in terms of his health. He feels good afterwards, says the 20-year-old from Uganda who has a 6-month-old baby. So I'm kind of the mind that you're stealing milk from your baby. They don't seem to realize that breast milk, and when a woman has a child, it is a finite resource that the baby needs to develop. Yeah. So basically, these men in parts of Africa, mostly in Uganda, are coercing women who have just had babies to give their milk to adult fucking men.
Yeah, no.
What the fuck? What the fuck? This is what the fuck? Like, I have no problem if it's a voluntary thing. I look at it as the same thing, the same way as I do cow's milk. In fact, it seems more natural to me that we would consume human breast milk post need for it after birth, as a thing, like the ice cream, the breast milk ice cream thing in the UK. That, to me, as somebody who doesn't consume dairy at all, makes more sense than drinking the lactations of another animal. Like, I mean, to me, it's all disgusting. I hate dairy, no matter where it comes from, goats, cows, or people, but it kind of made more sense. I don't understand the big, oh my God, that's so disgusting. I don't understand that attitude. When you were a baby, that's what you drank to develop.
I think it's more the irony of the fact that last week the article was completely different because this lady was bitching about the fact that this restaurant didn't want her feeding her baby in public. Or at least at the restaurant. They were like, can you do this
somewhere And exactly else? What Elwyn said. Again, and then it boils down to the individual. Mm-hmm. Some women, after birth, have a very hard time producing enough milk for their babies. So there are surrogates. There are programs where women who just by their own genetics are very, like, they might not have even ever had children. They can produce milk. And they help. So, you know, it's a give and take. And yeah, I'm sure you would, Trucker Matt. I wouldn't mind sitting. Never mind. She's sitting right next to me. I can't make that joke. Next, we have a man who decided wasn't paying attention, and he pumped 30 gallons of gasoline into the cockpit of his boat instead of the gas tank. And as you can see through this, oh, it's not coming up, but through this tweet from OC Fire Rescue, it's Florida man striking again. They actually had to bring in fire department and hazmat to clean up the gasoline and make sure that nothing was going to blow up. Fortunately, nothing happened, and they were able to clean it up. But good God, what's worse, these shithole countries and their stupid people, or Florida? It's hard to tell sometimes. Here's one that immediately made me think of you, Matt. Because
oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Say your piece.
It's just that there's no shade towards Florida. I feel like they take the whole America's penis thing a little too seriously, you know?
Yeah, and you're right, RJ. That man be stupid. So if you want to bring up the next one, this one made me think of you, Matt, because you spend majority of your days out on the highways. An eagle survives a crash through a windshield of a truck on a highway. I'm going to play the clip. It's a little slow. It's a slow-mo clip. And oh, there we go. It's going. Look right there. You see him down by the road. He's coming. And smash right into the windshield.
Oh, poor baby.
Apparently he survived and was just a little bit worse for wear, but stunned. He was okay. But yeah. Eagle versus windshield. The animal rescuers, after the fact, managed to say that the bird survived without any incident or any broken bones, which is actually kind of miraculous, considering how well put together these trucks are, and how fast they can potentially be going. But yeah, one of these days, I know that Matt is gonna come up with one of his dash cam videos and be like, guys, check it out, check what fucking flew through my windshield. And hopefully, if that were the case, that everybody involved would be okay.
You can always use that excuse if you ever decide you want to come home with a kitten, Just be like, look what I found on the street, mom, ma, lady, wife, waifu,
Wife. He,
wife,
he doesn't live with his mama. He's a man.
wife. I don't know. I'm just going through the list of ladies. I don't know. But like if you just decide you want to come home with a cute little kitty and you're just like, I don't really need this, but I've got the best excuse. I just found it on the sidewalk. It was just all by himself and no? All right. Next article.
So a sanctuary in South Carolina is putting out job postings for piggy cuddlers to socialize rescued swine. These are not for food animals. Mostly they're animals that were mistreated or what have you. But what they're doing is kind of well, it's really for a good cause because abused animals before they are given to a forever home as pets or members of the family. They need to be socialized with humans. They need to understand that not all humans are evil fuckers that want to abuse and hurt them. So I thought that was kind of a cute story that, the sanctuary is seeking people to cuddle with the piggies. Just be careful you don't fall asleep because the pigs might actually eat you. Yeah, Green Thunder. That's how I kind of got my kitty. Somebody abandoned it, and it was a couple-week-old kitten at the time. Half of her face was burnt off at the time because we had baseboard heaters in that building. So she went under the heating unit to hide because she's scared. She's alone, and cats like to rub up on things, and because she's a kitten, she didn't realize heat bad, and it kind of melted all the fur off of half of her face. And I couldn't not take her in. And 16 years later, she's a happy, healthy, rambunctious little cat who's probably sleeping on Elwyn's pillow right now because that's Mummy's pillow that smells like Mummy, and she needs to cuddle with it. Dog moose, one moose, two moose, red moose, go home, you're drunk. oh God, this one was we have I've seen quite a few stories these days because of carpool lanes. People want to try to take advantage of it. This one gentleman from the in Arizona had a sort of like Halloween skeleton that he put a bucket hat on to use the Hov lane, and was pulled over and cited with a moving violation, a traffic violation for what do they call it? I don't remember what the but it's illegal. You can't do that. You will get a fine. Depending on your state or province, you will probably get a couple points off your license. And don't do that stuff, you dumbass.
Yeah, it's also impersonation of a person. So yeah, that one's kind of weird. I mean, I would laugh. If I saw that, but yeah.
Yeah, sure. It's funny, but I mean, at the same time, it's you're breaking the law. Yeah, with the last show, we were talking a bit about Russia, and of course, the conversation got away from us, which isn't a bad thing, no. But we did talk about Russia, and one thing I wanted to bring up was a pair of elephants as they were being they're circus elephants in Russia. They were being taken out just for a walk. They have to exercise and be taken out into nature just like any other treated animals. But these two elephants decided that snow, and you can see in the video he's like rolling around in the snow and having a good time. Excuse me. And because they were having such a good time, the handlers were actually having a hard time bringing them back in after their walk.
Yeah.
To the point where they kind of got away from the handlers and were causing a traffic disturbance eventually. You can see again in the video who this savage is filming in fucking portrait. But they're having a hard time. They're trying to corral them back, and they're just not having any of it. They're like, nope, I want to have fun in the snow. Let me play. And I kind of feel bad for the elephants because they're like, hey, let them have a little bit more fun.
They'll want to go in eventually. I imagine it's cold as fuck for them too. So I mean,
yeah. But at the same time, it's funny because you get to see
cute.
How often do you see? Well, how often do elephants see snow? But how often do we as people see elephants having fun in the snow? You can see as they're trying to get the lead on him, half of his body is still covered in snow, and he's like, yeah, you're trying to corral me, but damn, this snow stuff is fun. It's cold and kind of wet and fun.
Yeah,
because as anyone knows, elephants don't really come from snowy regions of the world. They're naturally from hotter climates, and he's just backing away and having great fun in the snow.
Their cousin, the mammoth, has been gone for a long time. But you know what? You could honestly see them with like little fur jackets. I could totally see fur jackets on our elephants and just letting them have fun.
Oh, I can see that, Green Thunder. Yeah, sometimes they just need that sort of safety to get well, and then they're just like, no, I'm not a pet. I'm a wild animal. Even for animals that are typically domesticated, like cats, they need to be free. They need to be out in the world. Okay. Ooh, I forgot to hit the button. I didn't hit the button. This is kind of a sweet story that a brewery, this is some actual good news out of Florida. A brewery, a local brewery in Florida, is using their beer cans to find homes for shelter dogs, which is kind of cool.
Okay.
So as you can see on the label, they put up the pictures of the dogs in their, I think they're a microbrewery. They're definitely a smaller brewery, Motorworks, and they're just doing some good with their business in trying to find some of these puppers a forever home, and that's good. It has, as you can see here, it'll get rid of the advertisement. It'll have their serial number in the shelter, their picture obviously, but who they are as an animal. And obviously the stuff about the beer, but it's kind of good, kind of a sweet story of these companies that, yeah, sure, they're smaller companies, but doing some good in the world as well as selling their product. Not all, these crazy leftists, not all businesses, and libertarians too. Not all businesses are evil, heartless corporations. Yeah, no, it is an American brewery, Duck Dog. I just I have seen similar stories before that they're trying to help different animal shelters find these dogs forever homes. But I just, this is just the one that I found the other day. Another funny story because of the picture. Oh my God, this picture. Somebody sent it to me. I forget who. On Bloodwing stream the other day that I was on. Look at Ed Belfour's face. So he was arrested on Tuesday morning in Kentucky on mischief and intoxication charges. They say he was manifestly under the influence of alcohol to a point he was a danger to himself and others. Yeah, right. With that kind of a smile on his face for his mugshot, do you really think that is the face of somebody who's going to be a danger to himself or others? Like it seems public intoxication is really a subjective law. Like, yeah, if people are acting the fool, climbing telephone poles or light posts or starting shit with other people, yeah, okay, I can see that. Put him in the drunk tank.
I could see him like maybe at the most wandering off with the wrong person or something level of drunk, but I mean, most of the time you're fine.
With this, he wasn't actually out on the street. He was at the Kentucky Grand Hotel and Spa, quote unquote, clutching a curtain rod that had been ripped out of the drywall above a window next to him. The subject was kicking the spa door while he was laying on the ground. So he was kind of having like a little temper tantrum. But man, Ed Belfour, how the mighty has fallen, because for the longest time, he was one of my favorite hockey players, being a former goaltender myself. The man was an amazing goaltender for his time. Two-time Vezina winner. He's in the Hall of Fame. 484 wins under his belt. But yeah, he was kind of having a little temper tantrum in the hotel and spa. I only bring it up mostly because look at that mugshot photo. If I ever get arrested, I hope that my mugshot photo is going to be that photogenic. In fact,
he looks like he's just been giggling the whole time. Like he looks like a little kid who's just been caught with his hands in the candy jar, but he's just like, I'm not really doing anything that wrong, Dad.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as things like celebrities and athletes get up to mischief-wise, this is very tame. This is very tame. Let's not forget, people, that a certain person who recently passed away was a accused rapist who silenced his accuser with money because he didn't want to go through the public scandal, and the NBA didn't want to him to go through a public scandal like this because he is a multi-billion-dollar draw for their organization. It's a shame, like he and the rest of the passengers had an accident, a fatal accident. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is not looking past somebody's evil doing through their life just because they passed. And I will disagree with anyone that, oh, you need a certain time before you can talk about their evil, the bad stuff they did. No, bullshit. I don't care if they died or not. There's no reasonable amount of time before you can talk about not only the bad but the good in their life. You can talk about these things, that yes, he did do some good things out there. He was on his way to a public event for kids and all of that stuff. That's part of the good, but that good does not outweigh the bad that somebody does. Like when I will look at these same people and say, well, you didn't have that period of mourning and period of basically censorship over Soleimani, did you? Yes, the man was a monster. So what? You didn't have that with Epstein. Yes, the man was a monster, but you didn't have that point of, oh, let's not talk about that right now. It's bullshit. It's the hypocrisy that people have.
I feel like if that's the case, they're blowing it up out of proportions, because he was in a contained situation. He wasn't on the road, so he wasn't going to kill anybody. Yeah, he probably the guy in the picture, the sort
Belfour.
He might get a fine for causing any damage if he broke stuff, and
sure, but he's got the money. Yeah,
not a big deal. He didn't harm.
I will give the police the benefit of the doubt. Obviously, they were the ones who were called on the scene and made the decision to throw him in the drunk tank. Sure, yeah. If they say he was a danger to himself or others, I have to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not on scene.
But at the same time, though, I think it's probably the media conflating the two. I bet you anything the actual story is like, yeah, he was put in the drunk tank. We just figured it was safer for him because he was like running into shit, and fine enough. But like,
and dog 50%. That's being generous, man. Thank you.
Given the track history of any of our guys in the leagues of any sort, like, lots of them get caught like drunk driving and actually hitting people. So, like, yeah, I mean, shame on you for not having a fellow friend with you to babysit you when you're drunk, sir. I mean, maybe just remember to do that next time. And you know what? You pay your fines and apologize to the police officers.
And he may have had some accusations of impropriety in his past. Ed Belfour, we're talking. He's not an accused rapist. You know what I mean?
See, here's the thing. Like, this is the thing with the hashtag Me Too, and the reasons why I hate the hashtag Me Too is I don't doubt that he probably has been inappropriate. That doesn't make it sexual assault, and that doesn't make him a bad person. It might make him a little bit cringy, and I might not want to hang out with him as a woman if he's doing that when he's drunk. But you know what? As an adult woman, I just say that to his face and be like, "Listen, bro, you're probably fine when you're sober, but when you're drunk, you're kind of a douchebag." And then I leave. That's it.
Yeah, some people are just douchebags when they're intoxicated like that. That's fine. I mean, he doesn't really have a history or a track record of being on that level of
well, when it comes to women,
asshole. He does have a track record of kind of being very blunt and not watching his words when talking about certain things, but it is no means equatable to being a sexual predator.
In this day and age, all it takes for you to be a sexual predator is for the woman in question to see you as not being very attractive. And that pisses me off because that's not really fair. Because if that were true, then like majority women would be sexual harassers because it don't matter what you look like if the guy's hot, it does it.
Yeah, men are sexual abusers, women most affected. Men aren't getting laid, women most affected. Like, fuck off. So this was delicious because it's Vermont. Senator Sanders is the Vermont senator. And we all know how much I fucking hate Bernie Sanders. And this was just a delicious story because a Vermont man takes revenge on town board with a 700-pound statue of a middle finger. I know it's not related to state issues, but
yeah, that's funny.
Quote unquote, we wanted to show our appreciation, he explained. And basically it was it had to do with their zoning regulations that he couldn't put up a billboard or something because he wanted to put a sign because he has a business, monofilament cleaning and truck repair business, to his own property. This is on his own private property, was denied, wouldn't let him build the garage simply because they don't like him. And he thought a middle finger was the right response. He wanted to show his appreciation. So basically he carved this giant wooden middle finger, and it circumvents the zoning billboard laws because it is a $4,000 statue that falls under the category of public art. So as you can see in the first thing, there it is erected. There's his house. So you can see it's a fairly tall statue. It's 700 pounds, well lit, and it's facing the town hall across town. So I thought that was delicious. I have to.
That is beautiful.
Sticking it to the government in a legal and safe way. I'm all on board.
I mean, I do feel a little bit for his neighbors, but honestly, I would love the dude for his sense of humor, and I'd be like, bravo, bravo. But barbecue it at your house because you've just lowered my you've just lowered the value of my house.
Well, I mean, he lives in the middle of like
nowhere,
rural area, so it's not.
I would love him anyway.
Which again, because of the introduction of more urban regulations into rural areas, it boggles my mind because no, he can't exactly go to a commercial district or an industrial district to open up his truck repair shop. He's doing it on his own private property because it's in the middle of nowhere. Let's see. Oh yeah, we briefly talked about the Kobe thing. There was a Washington Post reporter. I'm not going to bother bringing up the article because it was just something I wanted to mention.
Oh, sure.
A Washington Post reporter suspended after bringing up the fact and talking about his previous sexual assault case in a tweet linking to his 2003 rape allegation. Felicia Sonmez, quote unquote, poor judgment in sharing a link to their article about the 2003 rape allegations, quote unquote, undermined the work of her colleagues. And I mean, this one's kind of a tough one because yes, they are a private outlet. but they're censoring them over talking about the truth, over talking about facts. It's not like she was bringing up tall erection, not bringing up hearsay and conjecture, but more so just, hey, this is an article that I wrote from 2003 about his sexual assault case, lest we forget that this person was not the saint that a lot of people are purporting him to be.
Well, that's how it is with the left, isn't it? Like, if you point out they're rapists, well, I mean, let's brush that under the rug. But we'll make up shit about people that you follow, and
Trump.
And I mean, even if you have facts that prove them wrong, but you know what? That doesn't matter. That doesn't count. That's all in the past. And they could point out things that are true. Like, I mean, like even the Stormy Daniels stuff, I just kind of laughed. I was like, did you really think that he was going to stop cheating just because his new wife is kind of hot? I mean, she's not even super hot. She's just,
Oh, dear Lord, something that just crossed my timeline. Ontario to spend an extra $1.6 billion to stabilize hydro rates. Hydro here is electricity. Mm-hmm. We call it hydro because back in the day, almost 99% of our electricity came from hydroelectric, the minister says. And once again, going back to the fact that if the Liberal government hadn't sold off a publicly owned utility that was supplementing our social programs and keeping electricity rates stabilized and fixed to inflation rates and income rates, we wouldn't be in this problem that they're now, again, that same Liberal government is trying to do everything it can to fix. But, recently we voted in the Conservatives who are still trying to fix the problems that the Liberals caused. Again, it's the Liberal modus operandi here in Canada that they create problems that cost us millions, if not billions of dollars, that then we have to start throwing money at, regardless of who is throwing the money at it, to fix the problems that they started. If there isn't a fucking problem, stop fucking with it.
It's also a really dirty tactic too, because and Doug Ford aside, like say Doug Ford was actually the greatest guy. I don't think he is. Like from what I've heard, from your guys' side, there's been some stuff he's done that was kind of shitty too. But say that wasn't the case, and he was just doing his job, fixing things. It's always going to make him look worse fixing the problem, because it's going to take so many resources to fix it, because it's cost a lot of money. So it always makes that side of the equation look bad, because no longer do they have the extra funds to add to it or to give people more of what they want. They have to retract half of that, if not more, to pay for it because it hasn't been done. That's kind of a hard position to take all the time. Yeah. Like I said, I don't really believe necessarily that Doug is the perfect guy for the job, but it stacks things against him,
Did we talk about the we did, about the federal Conservative Party leadership with Peter MacKay putting his hat into the ring for leadership. It was right beside the article I was just looking at, came across my feed, that quote unquote, maybe we don't know who we are anymore. Strategists weigh in on Conservatives' leadership contests. I don't think our party looks or sounds like the country. I can attest to that, because like we've been talking about several times now, is that the Conservatives are acting just like the Liberals, and they're just the different side of the same coin. And,
they are.
And we need actual responsible government.
They are the same coin. Like honestly, the face, honestly, it's blending in together. Like honestly, if they were in charge right now, I don't think that they would be doing anything different from.
Like Maxime was saying, you could take quotes from Trudeau, take quotes from Andrew Scheer, and you really wouldn't be able to tell which one is which.
Like the only difference is, like, for some reason Trudeau kept bringing up Harper all the time because he's a moron, but It's just like Harper's not here. You don't have him to blame this time.
Even though he was also quite an asshole.
Oh yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, if we were bringing him up, it was honestly just to keep him doing it because it's just fun to make him bring up irrelevant shit.
Yeah.
But it didn't work anyway. So honestly, it didn't matter because like we're still in the same boat.
Yep. I don't suppose you had anything you wanted to talk about, or because I'm kind of out of articles, stuff to say. Like I said, I was saying to Jen before the show, today was just, everybody goes through these. I was just having let's call it a bad brain day. Even debating even coming on stream tonight, but
No, you're fine. I wasn't really sure how long we were going to take this anyway, just because like I said, most of what I've seen so far, like I was following the Rebel yesterday because like for stuff like this, I do actually follow them. It's not just like really the Jessica Yaniv stuff, which I follow that stuff because I'm enjoying that part. It's just like seeing that asshole finally go to jail where he needs to be because he's a hazard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
like we've been talking about it. Bloodwing talked about it on his.
Oh yeah, the Arc server. Yes.
Monkey has set up a new Arc server that a few of us, myself included, are re-downloading Arc. I saw Cynic is on there right now. I see you, Cynic.
Oh, that's going to be a challenge because Cynic is a genius when it comes to breeding animals. So 300. Oh, like level 310, I think was the max. Or like, I'm not sure what you got to. It was like 320 for some of them. But like Uber color, I'm not saying you couldn't do it. I'm just saying like when he did it, it was just like systematic and mathematical. And I was just like, man, I got to take notes from you, sir. Except for the ones where you hurt yourself. Those notes I don't want to take.
Oh, I think. Yeah, I can't continue to download while we're streaming because all I get is buffering and a little bit of roboting from you.
Yeah, the other fun thing with Cynic is for some reason.
What have you been feeding your dog that he's ripping some serious ass, Duck Dog? Come on.
Beano.
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. He's been feeding them duck liver, so they're very good. They're like, yep. If I were a dog eating dog liver. But yeah, he spent a lot of time. But like, you're one of those people that like can kind of see the problem and work it out. I really, it's like I said, like that's why I want to play Conan with other people, like because I'm figuring it out on my own. But I tend to like run in circles sometimes where like honestly I could just go up to one person and ask a question like, oh, this is where I'm missing something. I never really went that far with Arc because half the time I really just wanted to breed colors into stuff. Because breeding in colors automatically gets.
Wow, Jen, that's just racist.
Hey,
breeding them based on color.
I had some of the most awesome metal T-Rexes ever. Like I had some like Megatrons and oh gosh, I was trying so hard to get a Prime Optimus. It was so close too. It was just getting that right blue. But I like that aspect of it. But like, the game, like the minute you get a color in a dinosaur, it's automatically a stat boost too. So it was always kind of like, at least now I know I've got one. Just what did I get?
No, I understand, Duck Dog. I was just making a joke. It was I've bred and raised and doggy sat. I know that they are sometimes little bastards and will go outside and they will eat stupid stuff and cause all sorts of bad problems, especially in their digestive tract. And they will, rip some serious ass. Now, This was a story that all about how, that I did see the boys talked about it on Lords of the Night. I wanted to bring it up. Daycare worker fired after Florida mother finds note written on toddler's stomach. And I'm inclined to agree with Satsu on this one, that this is probably a problem mother. I'll read a bit of the story just in case anyone's not familiar. You can see the picture here. There's a little bit of writing on his stomach from this little boy. A Florida daycare has fired one of its employees after a mother discovered a note written in marker on her toddler's stomach. Okay, let's stop right there for a second. Marker on the toddler's stomach. Face value, not good. I agree with the situation, but there's got to be more behind this.
Yeah, I don't think the actions are at all good. Like,
Yeah.
I can understand why they let the person go, because even if this lady is complete scum, you can't do that to the child, because the child is the one affected here.
Yeah, and you're writing on them with a marker.
Like, I can understand sending them home with, like, Post-it notes on them or something.
Or if like I said, and like, Satsu said, there's more behind the scenes here, then you call CAS.
Yeah.
You call child services and you say, hey, this parent keeps sending their child to daycare with no diapers. And that was the big problem, is that this kid, the mother, the single mother, keeps bringing them to daycare without the appropriate amount of diapers.
Yeah.
On Monday afternoon, Heather Chisholm said she was shocked to discover a pointed message scrawled in black ink on her 18-month-old son's stomach as she was changing his diaper. The note read, "Mom, I'm out of diapers. Please read my report." So that leads me through the wording of the message that they've been sending this mother reports. They've been communicating with this mother, and she hasn't been acting as a mother and saying, well, no, immediately I was upset. I didn't know what to do. I called family and said, is this something I should be upset about? Am I overreacting? They told me I wasn't. Chisholm explained in a Facebook post on Monday, of course it was social media, that every day the Sanibel Island daycare leaves a daily report in her son Milo's lunchbox. The report tells her about his mood that day, when they changed his diapers, and if he needs more diapers and wipes. Oh, Chisholm admitted that she had failed to read the report from previous day that notified her Milo needs more diapers. So this woman is, I'm just going to say it, abusing her child by not giving him the appropriate care that he needs, because that is proper sanitation and hygiene for the child. Oh, here come the excuses, guys. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a full-time job and 2 very young children. Sue me for not reading the report every single day. No, bitch. That is part of your fucking responsibility as a fucking parent. If you are leaving your infant child in the care of any caregiver, whether it's a babysitter or a daycare or school, and you are not reading the report on what they are observing as an outsider to your family unit, then you are at fault.
Not to mention the hole in her story where she said it came back in a lunchbox, which implies that she has to fill the lunchbox. You're saying that the little note that they put in the lunchbox was too big for you to read?
Yeah, you couldn't take the 5 seconds it would to read, I'm out of diapers.
Like,
maybe you're an irresponsible parent, and maybe you should be thrown in jail for the mistreatment of your own children. And maybe I don't know the extent. This is for the investigators to determine. But maybe, just maybe, she should be dealt with that way. And maybe, just maybe, these children should be put into the public system because they're being mistreated. They're not being cared for by their own fucking mother.
I mean, this happens quite often. And I mean, I don't want to call shade at her when I don't know the lady in question, but honestly, it's something that I've noticed from white trash people. I don't know the black community in comparison, but the white trash community has a tendency to lie about stuff. So there's a really good chance that she was deliberately sending her kid without the diapers because she knows that they probably have backups.
Yeah, because most people I know, I was a Manny for many, many years, and I've been around childcare industry for quite a while.
Mhm.
You as a caregiver, you're not just going to turn a blind eye and say, well, hey, we're not going to take care of this kid because their parents decided to not send with the extra diapers. They will do it, and they will then turn. So the story goes on in quote, a simple, hey, Heather, your son needs diapers. Maybe you misreport, end quote, would have done the trick. Well, then you would probably turn around and say, oh, well, they're shaming me in front of the other parents. That's why they're sending notes, because then it's a private communique between you as the parent and the people taking care of your children, so that they're not doing it in front of other parents to shame you, to say to all the other parents who are picking up their children at the time, hey, you're a bad mother.
Hell, I think Scribe pointed out yesterday in response to one of Jack's comments, and it was just like you could even reduce it to a tweet if you wanted to. It's not like that you can't give your number to one of the daycare workers and just be like, hey, if you've got something, can you just text it to me?
I mean, in response, the post received more than 24,000 reactions, probably more by now, 32,000 shares and 280 comments, with the majority of users expressing outrage and criticizing the daycare's workers' actions. Yes, as they should be. This is clearly, and I believe Monkey said it, clearly a case of two wrongs do not make a right in this sort of scenario. It is unacceptable. This shouldn't have happened to this child, but we also cannot discount the actions that, or inaction on the behalf of the woman who is the mother, that led up to this point. I just putting myself into the shoes of this caregiver. I'm probably at my wit's end trying to communicate this shit to this woman. See that there's this lack of care from and lack of communication. She admits she's not even reading the notes that they send home with this child.
Yeah.
But this was the wrong response. Again, I would have at that point, when they picked up the child, said, look, we have been trying to communicate with you, and we've been doing this we've tried to do this very quietly, very privately with you when sending these notes home, and you apparently have either been reading them and just not caring, or not reading them at all, making you a very negligent parent. But now I'm going to do it in front of all the other parents, and I don't care if I get fired for showcasing your mistreatment of your child by not sending the diapers, and that we have to then supply your child with diapers that are your responsibility. And if this continues, I will be contacting child services to report you for potential mistreatment of your son.
Yeah.
As we continue on.
Ooh.
Chisholm said this is the second time someone from the daycare has written a message on her son, but this time it was larger. Again, that's not entirely right. Especially since she says, and I don't, again, with what I'm gleaning from this article and how shady and just how much of a, bitch this woman is.
The con artist. She's conning. I'm saying it.
She says, I've given him 2 showers and scrubbed his stomach and it's not coming off. I don't know how much I believe that. Yes. Obviously, it depends on what utensils. Like if you're using the Crayola washable markers, it's going to wash off. That's what they're meant for. They use a very water soluble ink. If you're using a Sharpie or the regular Crayola markers, which I don't see why they'd have those kinds of things in a daycare setting anyway, other than in the staff office.
Even then, they usually don't, because kids usually get a hold of them, and it's
Again, I'm not saying that writing on a child with anything is appropriate,
Well, anything that involves the child directly is automatically like, yeah, no. And like I said, at most I would understand putting like post-it notes on a shirt or something, like if you're trying to be like a dick obvious, because that's
Yeah,
not
whatever
harm the
happened
kid.
to in my day, if there was a problem in school, the teacher would literally pin a paper note to my backpack, my lunch bag, or me, like my shirt or something,
Yeah,
with the problem.
yeah.
Because they're children, you can't expect them to bring the notes home to their parents, but you have to notify the parent of these things. I think that in this case, it's a case of both parties acting horribly, horribly.
But on the other hand, though, when I think about her saying it happened twice, I'm gonna call bullshit on that one too, because I could see it happening once, her flipping out, and then her reenacting it, because she's coming across as that feel like she's using her kid right now to try to generate sympathy, because with sympathy comes money. I do not doubt she already has a GoFundMe page. I don't doubt she has a pity me fund, because that's what her type of like that's what they do. She's just using this story as an excuse. Now, don't get me wrong, I do agree with you. Like, the stuff to do with the kid. I don't doubt that there's a fight there, but she knows she's already in the wrong. Like, she was already using the system to try to get them to buy her diapers for her. I've known too many women like that. It's one of those things where people like to tell me shit, and then like afterwards I'm just like, wow, okay. Yeah, women are frauds. Just as much as men are. And you went really quiet too, so I don't know what's going on there. He is muted.
Oh,
I think he's. Oh, yeah. Okay.
yeah. I was just saying I was trying to look at. There's no actual GoFundMe in her name just yet, and I wouldn't make a broad generalization that women are more that or men. I would say though that single mothers
do that though. I'm not generalizing broad groups.
I would say that single mothers, single motherhood, a single parent home are very counterintuitive to a healthy upbringing.
Yeah.
And that single mothers do tend to, from a lot of the stories I read and stories I see on social media, are very irresponsible. I mean, look at what caused all of this. Yes, you got pregnant and you don't have the support system to, and this woman herself, she has 2 children and she's a single mother. Maybe you should have learned maybe you should have just kept your legs fucking closed.
Yeah.
Because in with the Western world and these far leftists, they tell people that they tell women that they can be sexually promiscuous and that they don't have to be responsible for the repercussions of sex, and that the repercussions of sex being potential pregnancy, that financially the men are fully responsible for this, which is bullshit.
Yeah, that's been basically the narrative that I've gotten from the feminist point of view, is that like it's empowering to allow women the choice to murder their child because they can't be expected to be responsible beforehand. Mm-hmm. Now, don't get me wrong, there are the odd chance where you did take all the steps. You took the medication you're supposed to take beforehand. You wore the condom on top of it. You did the after pill. If you're, I don't know. Like I believe those two are separate, but you did one of the two, and it still didn't do shit. You still got pregnant. Okay, I understand. But they're using it as a means to deal with a problem because they can't be responsible.
They're going right to the extreme. Yeah, because they can't be bothered to use a condom. They can't be bothered. Yeah. And again, like I said, at the end of the day, no matter what birth control you decide to use, you still have to realize with all this birth control, you may still very well get fucking pregnant.
Yeah, and I mean, like, fair enough if you ask the dudes.
We don't teach that. We don't educate young women that this is a thing. Well, you can wear a condom. You can be on birth control. You can have 10 layers of birth control and still get pregnant. Life will find a way.
You know, and the irony of it is like the only way that you guys are going to have your own say in the matter, and it's going to be probably the most interesting fight ever, and I'm probably going to be laughing the entire time, is when men do have a valid birth control thing they can do, whether it's putting it on your dick or something you take, I don't, whatever it is, there's going to be such an uproar.
Oh, no doubt.
You know, there's going to be such an uproar because I
already is with feminists saying,
why isn't, if men could get pregnant, there'd be a male birth control pill tomorrow.
Well, no, because surprise, surprise, you dumb fucking cunts. Men and women are very, very different biologically. And that the development of a male contraceptive pill to take in our medical industry, like medical development so far, leaves us damaged, leaves us permanently, in some cases, permanently.
Yeah. It doesn't work.
Fertile.
It's not safe enough to be worth it. Like, I mean, maybe from there they can find something that will lead towards something that you can take that's safe.
Yeah.
And I support that research. I absolutely support men having a form of birth control because listen, feminists, let's not just like be completely dishonest and act like no woman ever has tried to trap a man through pregnancy or something. You know, whether it be for his wallet or his time, you act like that doesn't exist. So yeah, I do want men to have the choice because I'm tired of that angle too.
Yeah, and get to, okay. Let's say, let's just hypothetical situation. Sure, the pregnancy happens. Now, legally, the man should say, "Well, I don't want a part of this pregnancy." Just like the woman has the right to say, "I don't want a part of this pregnancy," and she wants to have an abortion. Mm-hmm. Okay, well. Again, the man should have an equal right to say, well, no, actually, I do want to have a part of this pregnancy. You can carry the baby to term and then be off the hook legally, and I will become that child's, full-time parent. You can fuck off, bitch. The opposite is true. If a woman doesn't want to have the abortion and the man does not want a part of I'm using abortion as sort of a catch-all for anti-pregnancy stuff. There's many measures before you can even get to an abortion that you can do. And say, well, no, I don't want a part of this. It's now your choice that you want to carry to term instead of taking plan B or whatever. That now I'm financially off the hook. Let's have equal rights in these family situations. It's a lot more nuanced than what I'm saying. Obviously, there's lots of things that
you're being nice
into play. I'm just being very, very general in saying at the end of the day, in the eyes of the law, you equal parties, both parties who had a part of this sexual act that led to a pregnancy should have equal say in their responsibility. Now, if both want to be a part of this child's life but are incompatible as a couple, then sure, again, they should have equal rights. But let's move on from that because, like I said, it's far too nuanced too.
You're way more generous than I am. Like I've gotten to this point where, like, okay, listen, if you have the abortion before 6 weeks to 8 weeks, like, because I know there's that little time period where honestly I know that it's a human being, but it's not developed enough to I'm sorry, I don't see it feeling pain for long enough to really make me cry a lot. All right. But after that point, I have this thing with me where it just inflames me that they can dehumanize a human being even to the point of a baby. If you're willing to do that to another human being, I'm sorry, maybe you should like get the stuff twisted afterwards so you can no longer have children.
Well, like I said, it all starts with the education and the first and foremost responsibility you have as an individual to understand that you have sex no matter how many layers of birth control you are using. I don't care if you wrap your dick 10 condoms and don't feel anything. It can still result in a pregnancy.
You're just a lot less likely. But like that's just it. Like it's anything.
It's a preventative measure as opposed to a stoppage, a end all be all stoppage to pregnancy. No. Condoms are still only 80-something% effective.
Yeah. That's
birth
why
control is still only 90-something% effective.
that's why I'm so honest when I date new dudes. I'm like, the first thing that comes out of my mouth is just like, just so you know, if you're planning on doing anything, I am not on anything. So make sure that you wrap it up. And if you want me to pitch in money for the wrapping up, I don't mind with that, because I do believe in splitting money for that kind of shit. But like, yeah, no, I've always been perfectly honest about that, because I think the last time I talked about sex was the other day, and I'd already confessed that like my first time doing it was when I was 30. So yeah, I wasn't taking the pill.
Yeah.
Like if I don't need to take something that I don't need to take, I'm not going to be taking it. So
moving on.
Orn.
Next article.
Going Orn.
I found that kind of aggravates me, because Ontario woman devastated after her puppy imported from overseas dies within a week. First of all, you shouldn't be importing puppies from animals, pets, potential pets from overseas. You fucking insane cunt. Do the responsible thing. Check out your local shelters. Go online, find shelters, and save an animal that would otherwise be put down. Don't buy from fucking puppy mills. You absolute fucking cunt. These are the type of people. Yes, I'm getting a little excited.
Yeah.
Because like I've maintained before, we have, through our species, the human race, complete domination over this planet and the other species that we live with. And part of that responsibility is to act responsible. Puppy mills are very irresponsible. I mean, just looking at this woman, oh my God, if I saw, she's from Toronto. So if I ever saw her on the street, on the bus or whatever, I'd probably walk up to her and fucking whack her in the face with my cane for being a total shitbag.
Well,
it is unfortunate that she did get scammed, because again, these puppy mills aren't exactly known for being ethical. She had to put the vet that she took it to had to put it down because of an importer online who said toy poodles were being shipped in Canada from South Korea. We were told this puppy would not be in cargo, but would be in a seat with a puppy nanny. When the dog first arrived, it was everything they hoped for, and decided they would name him Teddy. When we first laid eyes on Teddy, he was so excited. He ran towards us and gave us kisses. And we just fell in love with him. Yeah, probably because he was so afraid that he was isolated, ripped from his mother before it was ready and before it was weaned, thrown into a cargo container, into a carrier, and then shipped across the world. That you were probably the first human eyes that it's seen, the first taste of freedom it's seen in its entire life, you fucking disgusting cunt. But within days, Teddy became very sick, and that's when we realized he had flown the entire trip in cargo.
I don't think that's the only problem.
Oh my God, this is heartbreaking. I can't even look at the pictures.
If you're ordering from overseas, and listen, I'm not going to take it to the extent that you are, because we don't know that's entirely where she got it from. Like, she probably did, because I mean, like, the damn thing looks so inbred. But the thing is like, when you're importing a dog from overseas, are you looking into things like, oh well, did it give it shots?
Wait. So, quote, who knows where these dogs are coming from? It could be puppy mills in South Korea.
She doesn't know. Well, yeah, like I said, she didn't do any research on it.
She didn't do the research. She obviously very well knows that this could be coming from a fucking puppy mill, and she did it anyway.
Yeah. But like I said, I mean, like at that level, like, I mean, you're assuming that the dog is just the carrier. But no, I imagine it's probably more the case that, like, you know, it's inbred. It probably didn't get a single shot coming overseas. Yeah, if it got sick, its immune system probably was like, yeah, I'm in a foreign country. Fuck me. Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, I don't pity her. I you know, hopefully she kept track of where she got it from.
Including human error. Yes, in a perfect setting, condoms are 98% effective, but that's not taking into consideration human error and stuff. So in actuality, in real life, they are 85% effective. But I will agree with you. Yes, on paper, 98%. And the pill, yes. And especially since, again, people are different from one to the next. So, excuse me.
I always had the opinion that if you did both of those and it still didn't work, then maybe it was
Well,
just
there are a variety of different pills. Women are different from one to the next. You have to go through a trial and error process like most medication and find one that works and that doesn't cause health issues and blah, blah, blah. But getting back to the puppy, the Canadian Kennel Club, which is a private watchdog here in Canada, who does a lot of advocacy work for closing down things like puppy mills and investigating the practices of said puppy mills that most do not act ethically, said that when dogs are imported from other countries, there is a risk, I would say a huge risk, they could bring in viruses or diseases not in Canada. Like we've been talking about with all the invasive species that have been making their ways through places like Alberta. Alberta has 14 invasive species on record.
We do.
Because of imports from places like China and Korea.
Thanks,
this
baby.
is ridiculous.
I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's true.
Yeah, you're laughing because it's a morbid reality that people just seem to not like. I say people, but the populace in general just doesn't seem to care about. And no, these are the real life global implications we do as a people, as a nation, any nation, whether you're the United States, Canada, Mexico, anywhere. When you bring in these imports, you are taking huge risks a lot of the time.
Yeah. Well, it's like my dad follows all that stuff. I mean, it's probably not for much different. I mean, for general interest in the fact that the guy loves to fish. Well, do you know how many ponds have been fucked over the last 10, 20 years that he's got it on a list.
Yeah.
He marks them off.
Well,
He's like,
Jen, what do they say when you're going on vacation to places? You have to be wary of food and water and anything else that you might be coming into contact with, because there are things in other parts of the world that you haven't built up an immunity to, that there are parasites and bacteria that we need to be vaccinated against. And even then, you're only given like a 50-50 chance of not contracting things.
But I'm sure, I'm just going to tell you this one flat out, because as an older guy who grew up hunting and stuff, I'm just saying this because I want you to feel my dad's pain. So the guy retires, and I think he spent about more money on a boat than he should have, but I think it was like 80 grand for this steel boat with it's a foam inside to keep it afloat. But this thing was a tank for the Kootenay Lake. So if you know anything about the Kootenay Lake, it's basically a lake that's designed between two really massive mountains. So it's kind of the depth of the ocean, but it's not a big lake. It's not long in any sense of the word, but you can definitely drown like you would in the ocean because it goes deep enough to, get those kind of waves. And he ended up buying this boat for no reason, because some idiot decided to release some foreign shrimp into the lake, and now the lake is unfishable for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
So he sold his boat. I mean, the guy is 75 years old. I mean, he doesn't need to be hauling around $80,000.
But still, the damage was done.
Yeah.
Yeah, Asian carp, Japanese bark beetles, kudzu. What are they? Those mussels that was a big thing like 20 years ago that sort of kicked off this whole public notice of imports. Zebra mussels. That was it. That was a huge thing here in Canada because boats coming in the BC harbors. They somehow found their way into the Great Lakes, and then it's just, oh my God.
The videos watching it are just weird, because you see the fish literally jumping into the boats because there's so many of them. It's just it's crazy to watch. But I think between you and I, Functional, I think we both have to agree on one thing. If Japan or Asia ever sends us those giant wasps of theirs, fuck you.
We're fucking dead. We're dead because they are 5-6 times the size of a normal bumblebee.
Oh yeah.
And they actively kill and hunt
Mhm.
bees
And our bees aren't
hornets and
objected
wasps that are native to
Yeah.
our continent.
Yeah.
And if we lose the bees,
We starve to death.
we starve
Yeah.
to death because
Yeah.
almost all flora will start dying, which will then lead to starvation among animal populations and human populations, which will then contribute even greater to starvation in human populations, as well as spreading diseases to our livestock. So at that point, we wouldn't have any food. We're looking at an extinction level event, all because we don't want to stop imports from countries like China that refuse to act ethically.
Mhm.
And I keep saying this, I will keep saying it until I'm blue in the fucking face or until I'm 6 feet under. We need to stop as the West,
Mhm.
as the modern world, Western Europe, the UK, Canada, the United States, any other country that wants to get on board. We need to stop doing business with China. We need to stop doing business with India. We need to stop doing business with Pakistan. And we need to stop and put bans, travel bans, immigration bans on these same countries. Because if they're not going to act ethically in the government, I'm sorry to the populace who is most affected by these shitty governments and
Mhm.
who live in these shithole nations. I'm sorry to them. I feel for them. Don't think that I don't have any sort of empathy for them. But until their governments can act ethically, we do not need to start feeling the burden of foreign governments.
Let's be
affecting
real.
our
Where we
basic
are right
survival
now, it really
health.
doesn't matter how we genuinely feel about the people from China or the people from India, because we can see from the outside that clearly their government doesn't even care about them. I care about them more than their own government does. And
Yeah.
honestly, if I could do stuff, I would have already, but I can't. All I can do is hope for the best for China, at least Wuhan. I am definitely wishing for the best for them, but yeah, if your government can't even do the basic thing of like, let's
Health
check
and
our
safety.
shipments for
Health and
health.
safety of their public, yeah.
If you can't even
Well, that's the thing, Jen. A lot of countries like China don't have the same levels of health and safety regulations that we do.
Yeah.
They don't check every single export or import. As long as they're paid, they don't give a fuck.
Yep.
And yeah, like we said earlier on, the same kind of thing is happening here. It's bleeding into our governments, where government officials like Trudeau
Yep.
don't seem to give a fuck.
And that's why I'll point out stories from even the Rebel. Like I said, like I feel goofy doing it all the time. But honestly, I have to follow it because right now my trust for my government is such that
Let's not mince words. If Scheer, I would say the same thing about Scheer. I don't think he has the same level of. I think he has the same level of concern for public health and safety that Trudeau does.
Yeah.
Complete lack of responsibility for your electorate. And the saddest part is that the majority of my family is liberal voters. They don't seem to care. When I come over for family dinner, yeah, we generally don't talk partisan politics. We'll talk about events of the day and stuff.
Mhm.
And I will bring up things like, well, the people that you are voting for don't seem to care. And then they'll turn it around and say, oh, well, what do you think about Doug Ford not caring about the teachers? Because I have a few of them in my family. I'm like, well, he does care about the teachers. And I will bring out the facts, like saying, okay, well, one of the talking points on your side from your union is saying there's no
talks to the table.
Yeah, they're not bringing any talks. They're not even willing to sit down at the table, which is an outright lie, because they're offering you a 1% increase in response to your demand, not your offer, but your demand for a 2% increase. Well, by definition, that is them coming to the bargaining table. So you know what? Your unions are lying to you. This is why I really want to have a either private or stream sit down with my sister, because she is a part of the union. She is a part of the teachers union. She is a teacher. She has been for many decades.
Well, if you ever,
I want to sit down and talk to her just as people.
Yeah,
You know, I'm the outsider looking in. You're on the inside looking out. I want to hear what you have to say, what your problems are, and maybe talk about some of the actual facts of the issue. And then maybe you, as an affluent member of your union, can maybe start talking to other people.
Hell, you can even bring her onto one of our shows and just be like, I'll listen as
that's
an
one
empty
thing.
person.
It is a pretty complicated time for her. I'm not going to get into the personal minutia of it.
But like, if she ever agreed to it, like I'm just letting you know right now,
it would be amazing.
I would listen to her politely from my perspective, because
that's what I told her, because we just want to hear it from the horse's mouth. Pardon the pun there, sis, but we want to hear from the horse's mouth. Like, what are some of the grievances? Some of the stuff that we don't see.
Yeah, to be honest, I might even have a pleasant conversation with her, because like I've said before, my aunt used to work for the teaching, you know, in Ontario. I don't know what it's like.
You and I, just as people who are completely not connected. Sure, we have family that were in that industry, but we're for the most part completely disconnected from that. Let's call it an industry vocation, but we still recognize the value of a public education system and the public value for the most part that teachers have.
And like I said, no pressure to her or anything. But honestly, if you really looked at how I spoke back in the day, as far as I'm aware, as far as conservatives go from Alberta, I was probably closer to being a liberal as you could go. In all honesty, if it wasn't for the fact that like my choices were what they were, you know.
Yeah, well, like I said, the traditional liberal, not Liberal Party, but in your practice of how you look at politics, we're very liberal. A lot of liberals are now considered very much so on the conservative side of things, on the Republican side of things.
Yeah.
To me, I look at these parties, not here, but more so in the States, and I'm like, well, you have two parties. You have the insane left, and you have the more rational party, the Republicans, which is blowing my mind, because when I was a kid, we had the Satanic Panic, we had the moral majority who were all on the Republican Party side of things. They've kind of been defeated within their own party, and now they're just the party of reason. Hey, we're looking at data, we're looking at science. They're not the majority of the moral panic.
I'd even say, like, in terms of me, like, the only time I really go full out conservative is when I'm crowing for my oil fields, because honestly, I think that's a crime. I'm not even.
I mean, like I've talked about politics before. These are just issues that one side or the other have latched onto. They're not really a left or right issue.
And then the other one too, it would probably be abortion. But honestly, at the same time, though, I you know what? If at stage 9 you decide you want to murder another human being and it's in your body, you go ahead and do it. I mean, I think you're a piece of shit for it, and I consider you a murderer. But go ahead. That's the liberal in me speaking. I mean, I do view that as murder, but I do agree that they have the right to do what they want with their own body. I think it's disgusting.
But you're not going to impose your moral standards outside of the scope of, you know, what's generally accepted, you know, just so you know, use an example like the 10 Commandments kind of thing. Like, well, you're not going to hurt somebody. You're not going to steal from somebody. You're not going to, you know, those kinds of things, those base social contracts and I would boil it down to self-preservation. I am not going to murder you because I don't want to be murdered. I'm not going to steal your stuff because I don't want you to steal my stuff.
I mean, you know, honestly, maybe it's because I'm just more morbid than the average person. But honestly, back in the day, how they dealt with unwanted babies was just as horrible as what they do with abortion nowadays. You know, back in the day, the Christians were well known for leaving babies outside because, well, you were unwanted. So back in the arms of Christ, that's what they believed. So I'm just saying, shit happens.
I don't really want to get into that
I know,
abortion
right?
debate.
Dark. I know, right? That's the kind of shit that I throw out, you know. But that's why I don't debate feminists, because like I said, I don't see any improvement with what they're doing.
Yep.
And I sounded like the Roadrunner when I just laughed. So let's go somewhere else.
Whatever. Well, I'm just gonna end off with whatever happened to rare, safe, and legal. Rare, safe, legal. It's not birth control. Rare, safe, legal. That's all I'm gonna say on that. But on that note.
Sorry, Dark. I mean, at least I got a perfect Roadrunner laugh out there unintentionally. You know, I really have to start recording these. But yeah, it's one of those weird ones, Scotty. Like, you know, I kind of agree with you, but at the same time, though, at the end of the day, I'm done with arguing with people. You know, I'm at the point where I go back to my zombie days, like, you know, 3-4 years ago when zombies were more popular, and I could kind of understand why everyone really enjoyed zombie movies. It's because there are times when you just like, I have no excuse to kill you, but I kind of want it because you're kind of a shitty person for doing the stuff that you do. But if you're a zombie, you know what? All bets are off now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a good way to look at life, and that's why I pulled away from the zombies, because I was like, Jen, you don't need to go to the levels of evil where you're like condemning the rest of the planet. Everyone has a phase where they kind of resent the planet. I do think that. I got over mine with zombies because at least it was funny. For the record, animes that I do recommend, even though it'll never end because the author died, High School of the Damned. Very funny. The boobs,
it's hilarious, yeah.
Like, the boobs are ridiculous, but I laughed like that one scene with the bullet between the boobs, and I was just like, yeah, I could, yeah, you know that there are so many visions of that missing, right? And then just actually hitting something.
Mm.
But yeah, I love that one too.
But on that note, let's get the fuck out of here because I'm hungry.
Oh, okay.
And I know we both have to get back to downloading Arc and maybe get in there.
And I have to walk up to my pot store, which is never fun at this time of year because it's still kind of slidey.
So I'm gonna play us out. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Thanks again, Jen.
When Bloodwing gets Monkey to his yard, it's the opposite of usual in that he's pointing his gun at him and he's just like, you need to get on my lawn, sir. Get on, sir. And that's all.
Yeah, as we